Well, to be brief, it is Dental Health Month. Happy Dental Health Month. Our school does participate through a New York State grant in the dental sealant program for second and third graders. So an educator has come in and had a conversation with children, sent them home with a form if they want to participate in the dental sealant program, which is a fantastic opportunity and really does, not really like, waving a flag of dentist, but it really does feel like that. So I'm glad that we can participate. We are done with our first week of state testing. That was the ELA assessments. There have been, if you happen to have done any reading, there have been remarks on the confusing nature of the questions, the length of the passages, some of the language used in the questions. And that's an every year kind of phenomenon. Someone gets hold of the test and looks at it and says, our fifth graders are not capable of this, or how dare the state ask these kinds of questions, or sometimes you do come up with some very strange test questions, like the pineapple question from last year and the whole reading thing. But what I'm going to say about it for this year is the bottom line reality for Edwards Knox is that for the most part our children can't read fast enough to get through the test yet. So I maintain that we still are pushing forward on guided reading levels and instructional reading levels that are much higher than we currently have. There's no avoiding this clash. We definitely have much more complex texts that children are reading. The second is that our children, as well as children around the state, they have to be able to write quickly without setting up the typical organizer and key chart and kinds of things that children have been taught to do in the past for state assessment. There's absolutely no time to do that at all. So in saying that, are our children prepared for all that yet? No, they really are not. Are children statewide prepared for that? I can say regionally a lot of them are not, having had a glance. It's difficult for children to not prepare for a writing assignment, but there is a lot of writing involved, and it's a kind of writing on the fly and writing from the text that they're just not used to yet. But that is the direction that they'll head in. So we can't be surprised to see more reading being done at school, more reading being done at home to try and get kids up to the grade level complexity they need to be at. A lot more writing. We'll obviously structure writing instructions so that students know how to plan, but when the rubber hits the road, they're going to have to be able to create well-considered arguments without a lot of time to think it through. So that's the evolution of the kinds of skills. And if that test tells us what our children need to be prepared for in the future, you can kind of see how it translates out. Students who can think quickly and articulate well, students who can read quickly and pull out very important facts quickly. Those are reasonable skills to ask of our students as they hit this job market in 10 to 15 years. I'm not going to say that it's going to be pretty along the way, but I think the intention of making our students more ready for the world that they're going to encounter translates out pretty well in those tests. They just do look really overwhelming right now. Students were tired, and many of them did not finish, but they sure did try hard. The other thing is that and this is just me on my soapbox, we can't walk around saying that our kids aren't capable of doing it, and we can't utter those words to our children. They have heard them. They have heard them statewide. They've heard them in all sorts of school districts that this test is going to be too hard for you, honey, so do your best. And we can't. They are very capable. They may be a few years off from being as capable as they should be, but they are. And we will get there, and we will stay unified to make sure that what we tell them is, you are now fully prepared to take on this task. And yeah, it might be difficult, but you're ready. You've worked hard, and you're ready to take it on. So that's me on my soapbox. So that's pretty much what's going on. Next week, we return, this week actually, sorry, this week. We return for math. Math is going to be difficult, all right? But our students are going to bring to it everything that they have been taught. There are still instructional gaps, and we know it. There are instructional gaps across the state, and there's no avoiding them. The gaps will be smaller next year and smaller the year after. But what they do know how to do, they're gonna go ahead and they're gonna do it. We're gonna see what this looks like in the end. But I believe in them. They're hard workers. Our teachers have given them as much instruction as humanly possible in a very short time to make up the difference, and we're just gonna roll with it. So, I believe in our kids.
Have you talked to any other elementary principals to get feedback on how your kids respond to the test? I mean, I read the NISPA letters and read the newspaper, and statewide it was horrific for some children. I mean, it was a real traumatic experience, which I don't know if there's anything we can do to change that, probably not, but are you getting the same kind of information back from other districts, or are we any different than?
It varies district by district a little bit. It kind of depends on, I think, where the administrator is and thinking about all of this reform agenda. If they already weren't into teacher evaluation and the Common Core, they're not talking too fondly about it. But I haven't heard any like hardcore examples of, you know, this has been an awful traumatic experience for our children. It's been hard and it's been really long for them, but there have been a couple kids who have cried, you know, because it's more than they're used to. There are some districts where, you know, parents have opted out and are not one of those districts. But no, not really. And then there have been some, like, you know, a weird half comment made on a sheet at the end of an 8th grade. There was a little asterisk that said, you know, dear teacher, I don't know what, this wasn't all that difficult after all. I almost kind of liked it if it wasn't a state test. So I think it really starts with the message that was sent. I mean, if you say you're going to go in there, this is going to be the worst experience of your life, and you'll be lucky if you make it out.
Yeah, you're setting expectations.
That bar is so low, you know. I mean, there's a challenge of not saying you're going to go in and kick its butt, and it's all right on you, kid. There's a third pathway, and we have to, I think, work real hard to get that message out of, you know, achieve as high as you can, and likely it will be good enough, so long as we've provided you with what we can to get you there.
I've only got one data point to compare to these two, but it was draining, I think. It was draining 3 days.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's a really, and then it's followed up with another 3 days, makes it even more intense, for sure.
From my understanding, the state didn't even tell the teachers what were on these tests, so they were not aware, right?
Well, there were samples. Okay.
Were there samples?
There were grade level sample test questions.
That they had them all year?
They've had it for quite a long time, yeah. You know, was there like a massive quantity of them? No. But if
But there was a sample of each level.
yeah, and if you
Like a
anchored
random
yourself to the writing and the reading, you could get an understanding of just what kind of skills we're going to be asked for.
Are these tests something that we can keep a copy of, or are they going to take them? Why don't they let us have a copy so that we know, so next year you can work with it? Why did the state do that? Just did you copy one just by mistake?
No.
You know, that's unfair.
Just in case anybody heard, no.
It's unfair to the teachers and the students,
Yeah.
you know, to not be able to have that for next year to show the kids. It's how does it
Eventually
say?
it'll be online.
What's that?
Eventually it will come up online.
Yeah, that's our state.
Well, it saves money so that they don't have to keep recreating new exams, so
Yeah.
that's one way that they can do that is by requesting.
Are they going to use the same exam next year?
I doubt that,
I
but,
doubt that, yeah.
right. But like even at the grievance level, it's the same thing. Some exams are secure, you have to absolutely send every piece back so that, you know, they don't have, you know, schools at large don't have that information to utilize to prepare for, but at the same time, it saves the state money so that they don't have to continually make new questions.
And it also, you know, in another way, it does prevent you from teaching to the test. Whereas one year, it might be all about pineapples. Right, and the character trait of a pineapple. You know, the next year might not have anything to do with characterization, it might have everything to do with conflict. So it's supposed to be about painting the broad picture and having students ready for whatever's given to them. Mhm.
It truly comes down to, I think, the less time you have in your hands, the less you get to task analyze the entire thing. So they don't want it sitting around and having everybody figure out its composition.
Mhm.
We had 100% participation at the 7th and 8th grade level, so that was good. I was, slightly concerned when, news started coming out that students themselves or, associations within the school were, not teacher associations, but parent associations, kind of promoting the idea of not being, but at the 7th and 8th grade, every person in the building participated in the test, so that was good. There were certainly days that were more stressful, I think, for the students than others, especially the second day of testing for the ELA. Most students did not finish, which certainly created, I probably think, some apprehension for the next day, but when they walked out on the third day, oh, that one was so much easier, I think they felt a sense of relief, so, but, there were some students who were, upset.
And the length of the test is 90 minutes?
They get 90 minutes for students who don't get extended time, 90 minutes each of the 3 days. So really, they're tested for 4.5 hours last week, total, on ELA. And then they'll be doing the same thing this week. And for some of those students who do get extended time, they might be getting, they might have 3 hours each day, so they're looking at 9 hours of testing last week and 9 hours this week.
Results are,
Right now, actually, the staff are, so in addition to having the test last week, staff are now leaving the building as Amy went today and participated in scoring. So we have this transition back and forth out of the building of those that are scoring the ELA, going to a regional scoring center to take care of that. So I have no idea about anticipated timeline for the scores.
The other day, the BOCES reported that the growth score assigned to teachers would not be available until August, which means that what they do is they grade it, and then they have to norm it, and they put the test on a curve. So until they have all that data in,
that takes someone about 2 days.
That invalidates the APPR. APPR is supposed to be done by 6:30.
So they're taking this whole week and all next week's of education for the children, just to test them. So they're taking 10% of their school year.
Well, it's not 10%, but it's certainly a large portion of time right now.
But you got to prepare the kids for it all.
That's right.
well, so in 2 years, one of the things that gets a little bit better about it is, because it's not only that they're taking that instructional time, but then their classroom teachers have to leave for another day, or possibly 2 days, either to train as a scoring leader or to just score. So you're right in that now there's another day where they've got a substitute, and that might still be a great productive day, or it might not, depending on a lot of things.
Also an expense to the district,
Yeah.
because we have to get a sub to come in to cover them.
Anyway,
So another mandate that's not funded.
why don't they do that in the summertime? Have the teachers train in the summertime and pay them the extra money rather than take away the educational.
In a few years, it'll be computer-based, and the only improvement there will be that although the expense in some other way will find its way to each building. The multiple choice parts would be automatically scored, by the computer, and they're gonna hire out to scoring vendors, folks probably at home who are gonna look over, be anchored, and just grade them at home. So at least, if we had to find a silver lining, we would say, at least it wouldn't take the teacher out of the classroom more. It will still take a lot of time to do the tests, though.
Did you have any more on that? So we had a blood drive today in the building. NHS sponsored their second blood drive for the year. I don't know what was collected, but we'll report on that the next time. With the school closing prior Friday, the NHS induction ceremony has been postponed until the 29th, so that will be happening next week. We also have a homework excellence trip coming up next week, as well as awards assemblies for the elementary and the 5-8 level. So that's all I have.
For the board, one of the things I got a call from Colson and Cogden, which are our new auditors, and their normal practice is to only report out to the audit committee, and I said, normally when we get our audits done, it's to the whole board, so I'm just making sure that is what everybody would prefer, to the full board, okay, because that will be on May 28th, just to
I
let
don't
you know.
want to have to try to explain to everybody else.
Well,
what
and I
happened
said,
in the
well,
audit.
we kind of went round and round, and I said, we've always done it that way. They said, well, we don't normally do that. I said, you know, so, okay, but I just wanted to check with everyone, make sure. I've also received a request from Herman DeKalb for our board to put a subcommittee together to meet with their board to begin re-looking at possible things for futuristic sharings, whatever you want to say. They would prefer to do it at a subcommittee level.
I love to inform you.
I think it's very important to move forward, talk to our neighboring school, if they prefer that. It'd be nice if we all could go, but if they prefer a subcommittee, then that's what we'll do.
Could the four people in the committee go and other of us be in the audience?
Because it won't be an open meeting. It'll be a committee.
Hey, did you see that possession arrow down there?
What do you want to do? Because I had said to them that I wasn't sure that our board would want to do a subcommittee rather
I
than.
think it comes down to if that's the only way they'll meet, then I want to do it rather than not be able to meet at all.
Right.
That's what sounds like to me.
You could always decide to change it if you wanted to, after, start out that
The
way.
initial.
If they
Right.
agree,
Looking at, we started out with a joint board meeting, and I think our committee, and we all talked as a group as to what we're looking for goals and expectations, and then break away in the committee after that.
I can ask them that. They were not interested in having a full meeting.
Right, they don't want,
they don't want to meet.
I mean, I can state it that way and say we prefer to have a full meeting. What do you folks think? And then break into committees. But when I presented that already to Ann in the email.
I certainly wouldn't want to scare them all. I just thought if we were all together as a group, we'd come up with goals and expectations, and then we could break away our committees, but they don't want to do that, and I'm fine with it starting another committee.
I think the first thing you gotta do is find out where they wanna go with this. You know, are we talking about a small section, a large section, all the section, none of the section?
So do I will present it, we prefer to do full board, but we will do the sub. Who would like to volunteer to be on the subcommittee?
I would like Andy to.
Reggie has his hand up. Okay, we can only have 3, so you folks decide. Oh, 4, I'm sorry, 4.
Oh, 4.
Reggie had his hand up first, that's all I can say.
Is it daytime or evening?
I would assume they're probably gonna have the same thing with their board, it'd probably be evening. That would be my guess, Glenn.
Reggie and Mandy and I will.
Tom also raised his hand.
Go.
No, Randy raised his hand, that's why I said that's what I stopped.
Oh, Mandy, you did too? I knew you said one or
Oh,
two.
yeah,
I saw him.
Fine.
Motion.
Why don't
We
we,
can also switch off.
why don't we at
We'll
least pick
start
5
and-
people that, you know,
Yeah.
but.
Okay, Reggie, Mandy, next,
Let Randy go, he's been on every committee, so.
okay. I need one more then, and then we'll have an alternate. Reggie, Mandy, Randy, Lynn. And then,
I'll be an
Terry, you'd be
alternate.
willing to, anybody else want to be an alternate just in case?
So,
Chris and Tom, okay.
There's nothing says we can't plug each other
Right.
in, you know?
Nope,
Yeah.
and that's what I'll do then, I'll address it, the email when I hear back from Ann to those as the primary, and then I'll tell who the alternates are. And then if somebody finds out that they can't go, email, like reply all, so then
Okay.
somebody else can step back up and say, I can go, and we don't have to run around the clock for
Did she give any influence to what they might be looking at, or was
I asked and, no. It was like, I felt like we were talking secret code. I mean, I said, I was trying to ask questions and I wasn't getting answers.
I think it's in response to a regional high school study that they're doing. I think they're trying to cover all avenues. And with much more information. I don't think they want to put all their things in the basket.
makes sense?
Okay, for the budget, Amy, would you mind putting it up there?